Dimitri Kostas sent 18 Greek resistance fighters to kill Bumpy Johnson. Only 5 walked out, and the message they delivered made the most feared Greek commander in New York abandon his empire and flee to Athens forever. October 28, 1947. Bumpy Johnson was outnumbered, 18-1. Dimitri Kostas had sent his deadliest crew, Nikos the Lightning, Andreas the Wolf, Yanis the Silent, Maria the Ghost. 14 more ELAS veterans, whose names were whispered in fear from Crete to Brooklyn. They cornered Bumpy in the Cotton Club basement. No witnesses, no way out. Bumpy was 42 years old, king of Harlem, but facing battle-hardened resistance fighters. Kostas was the most connected Greek commander in New York. Everyone expected the same ending. Bumpy Johnson dead in a basement. But what Kostas didn't know, Bumpy Johnson understood liberation better than most Greeks. 4 hours later, only 5 of those 18 fighters walked out alive, and they delivered a message that made Dimitri Kostas abandon his territory and disappear forever. This is the story of the night. Bumpy Johnson reminded Greek fighters what they really fought for. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand Dimitri Kostas. He was a former ELAS commander who'd fought against the Nazis during World War II, then against the British and Greek government forces during the Civil War. When the Communists lost in 1949, Kostas fled to New York with dozens of other ELAS veterans. By 1947, Kostas controlled the Astoria Greek community with military precision. His fighters weren't typical gangsters. They were guerrilla warriors who'd survived Nazi occupation, who'd fought in the mountains of Greece with nothing but courage and determination. Men and women who understood sacrifice, resistance, and absolute loyalty to their cause. But there was a problem. Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had been expanding his territory into Queens since 1946, establishing numbers operations, protecting Greek businesses from Italian mob pressure, offering security services in areas Kostas considered sacred Greek territory. To Kostas, this wasn't business cooperation. This was invasion. A black American providing protection to Greeks was insulting to everything ELAs had fought for. March 1947. Kostas sent emissaries to Bumpy. The message was clear. Stay out of Queens or face the consequences of crossing Greek resistance veterans. Bumpy sent back a response that made Kostas's blood boil. Tell Dimitri that freedom fighters don't threaten other freedom fighters. April 1947. Kostas tried intimidation. He convinced Greek restaurant owners to refuse service to Bumpy's people. He pressured Greek dock workers to delay shipments to businesses under Bumpy's protection. He spread rumors that Bumpy was working with government agents. Bumpy responded by opening a community center for Greek immigrants, free English classes, job training and protection from anti-immigrant violence. In the heart of Astoria. In May 1947, Kostas escalated. He sent 10 fighters to destroy the community center. They came back unconscious, tied up, and left at a Greek Orthodox church with a note, "Real resistance fighters, protect immigrants. They don't terrorize them." By October 1947, Kostas was getting pressure from other ELAS veterans. His inability to control the Harlem problem was making Greek resistance fighters look weak. ELAS veterans didn't tolerate weakness. So Kostas made a decision that would end his leadership. He assembled 18 of his most battle-tested veterans, men and women who'd survived German occupation, who'd fought Wehrmacht troops in the mountains, who'd killed fascists, and would kill for Greek honor. The plan was simple. Corner Bumpy Johnson on Greek National Day, execute him brutally. Send a message that protecting Greeks was Greek business only. October 27, 1947. The 18 fighters gathered at Kostas's warehouse in Astoria. These weren't street criminals. Nikos had killed 15 German soldiers with explosives. Andreas had led mountain raids against Nazi convoys. Maria had survived Gestapo interrogation without breaking. They were heroes who'd lost their way. Kostas briefed them personally. Bumpy Johnson has insulted Greek honor for the last time. He must be eliminated completely. What are his crimes against Greece? Hastionis, the silent. He protects our people without permission. He makes Greeks dependent on Black American charity. He weakens our community's strength. The fighters accepted their mission. They'd been following Kostas since arriving in America. They trusted his leadership completely. October 28, 1947, 11:30 p.m. Greek Independence Day. But independence would be tested in Harlem. 18 Greek fighters moved through Manhattan like ghosts. They disabled security, cut communications, positioned themselves with military precision around the Cotton Club. Nikos picked the lock using skills learned breaking into German headquarters. The 18 fighters descended the stairs in perfect silence. Professional resistance veterans executing a military operation. They found Bumpy sitting alone, reading a Greek newspaper, drinking ouzo. He looked up as they formed a semicircle around him. 18 weapons pointed at his head. Dimitri Kostas sends his regards, Nikos announced, his Greek accent thick with authority. Bumpy folded his newspaper slowly. He looked around the semicircle of fighters, studying their faces carefully. Then he spoke in perfect Greek. Dekokto makaites, gianaskotosum, enan anthropo, Bumpy said. 18 fighters to kill one man. The fighters froze. Bumpy Johnson speaking Greek was impossible. But what he said next changed everything. Eniafto palthes, ithilo Kolokotronis. Bumpy continued. Is this what Kolokotronis would have wanted? Nikos lowered his weapon slightly. How do you know about Kolokotronis? Exerida tin Astoria. Tis Hellenikis epanastasis, Bumpy replied. I know the history of the Greek Revolution, because I understand fighting for freedom against impossible odds. Andreas stepped forward. You dare speak our hero's name? I speak about revolution because I am a revolutionary, Bumpy said, standing slowly. You fought the Nazis to liberate Greece. I fight oppression to protect my community. We're fighting the same war. Maria was confused. But you're interfering with Greek community affairs. I'm protecting Greek immigrants from the same forces that occupied your homeland, Bumpy corrected. The same people who collaborated with the Nazis are the ones pressuring your businesses now. Bumpy reached into his jacket. 18 weapons aimed at him, but he moved slowly, carefully. He pulled out a small object and placed it on the table. It was a Greek resistance band, blue and white, with the words Eleftheria, I Thanatos, freedom or death. A friend gave me this, in Alcatraz, Bumpy said quietly. Greek resistance fighter named Stavros Dimitria, fought with ELAS against the Germans, died in prison defending his principles. Nikos stared at the band. Stavros Dimitrio. You knew him? He was my captain in the mountains. Taught me everything about fighting for freedom. He taught me something too, Bumpy said. He taught me that resistance fighters protect all victims of oppression, not just their own people. The basement went completely silent. 18 Greek veterans suddenly questioning everything they thought they knew. What are you saying? Andreas asked. I'm saying Dimitri Kostas isn't fighting for Greek liberation. He's fighting to control Greeks the same way the Germans controlled them. Yanis spoke, for the first time in months. But Kostas led us to freedom. Kostas led you away from your principles, Bumpy replied. You're not fighting for Greek freedom anymore. You're fighting to keep Greeks isolated and dependent. Maria looked around at her comrades, professional fighters, but also Greeks raised on stories of independence and liberation. What proof do you have? Maria asked. Bumpy gestured to the resistance band. Look at what's sewn beneath the Greek flag. Nikos examined the band carefully. Sewn in small letters were the words Geta tin Eleftheria olon tun keta pismenon, for the freedom of all the oppressed. Stavros believed that Greek freedom meant freedom for everyone oppressed by tyranny, Bumpy continued. Not just freedom for Greece, but freedom from oppression everywhere. For the next 2 hours, 18 Greek fighters listened as Bumpy explained how oppression had followed them to America. How controlling their community was the same as occupation. How fighting other oppressed peoples only helped their common enemy. He's right, Andreas said quietly. We've become what we fought against in Greece. Nikos studied the resistance band. What do you propose we do? Take this band back to Kostas. Tell him it came from Stavros Dimitriou's student. Tell him that Greek resistance fighters don't oppress other communities. One by one, the 18 fighters filed back up the basement stairs, but not all of them. 13 men and women left the Cotton Club that night. 5 stayed behind. Why? Bumpy asked. Because you reminded us what we liberated Greece for, Nikos replied. The next morning, Nikos the Lightning walked into Kostas's warehouse and placed the Greek resistance band on his table. Where is Bumpy Johnson? Kostas demanded. Alive. What do you mean, alive? I sent 18 fighters. Nikos's voice carried the authority of the Greek mountains. You sent 18 freedom fighters to oppress another community. We remembered what we really stand for. Kostas stood up, his face red with rage. How dare you question my leadership? How dare you betray the resistance? Nikos replied. Bumpy Johnson understands Greek liberation better than you do. The room went dead silent. Kostas's other associates watched as Nikos delivered the message that would end their leader's control. Stavros Dimitriou died fighting for freedom for everyone oppressed. You've become an oppressor. We won't be part of it. And if I report this to the other ELAS commanders. Nikos looked around the room at Kostas's remaining supporters, men and women who'd heard about the resistance band, who understood what it meant. Then you'll discover that some Greek fighters remember what we really liberated Greece from. 3 days later, Dimitri Kostas boarded a ship to Piraeus. He never returned to New York. The 5 fighters who stayed behind became trusted allies in Bumpy's organization. They helped establish Greek immigrant assistance programs, anti-discrimination networks, and community protection services. And that Greek resistance band, Bumpy kept it in his office for the rest of his life. A reminder that liberation recognizes no borders, and resistance fighters protect all oppressed peoples. October 28, 1947. 18 fighters walked into a basement to preserve Greek isolation. 13 walked out, having remembered what liberation means. And the 5 who stayed proved that Greek courage meant fighting oppression, not enforcing it. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy. It's showing them they're betraying everything they once fought for. If this story of liberation transcending borders moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you believe resistance fighters protect all oppressed peoples. And comment below, what would you have done in that basement?